I'm trying to rationalize how Ella became Ella. And it just so happens that in January, I'm coming out with a novella that's titled Ella, and it's a sequel to House Witness. At the end of House Witness, Ella ends up in jail because DeMarco, is the guy that ends up putting her in jail. And her only reason for living now is getting back at DeMarco after she gets paroled. But most of the villains I've tried to do that with, to have some, there has to be a reason for them doing what they're doing, and they have to come across as human in some ways. That's part of the fun of making them, I think. It usually starts off with, just like I said, an idea. And like in the case of Alligator Alley, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was intrigued by inspector generals. Every agency in Washington's got an inspector general who's supposed to be, rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. And then from there, I sort of jumped to Medicaid fraud, which is billions of dollars every year. Uh, and the setting happened to be in Florida because my son's a diver. He's a diver for the Navy, for Naval Shipyard there, and his training was down in Panama City, Florida. When we went down for his graduation ceremony, we were driving through Florida, and so it was just the combination of the Medicare fraud combined with inspector generals combined with the Florida setting that brought the book together. With Kingpin, I think it was more just the general idea of corruption at a very high level. Here's this real estate developer who kind of thinks he's just above it and nothing can ever get to him. And then some kid in Congress, who doesn't know what he's doing, he basically stumbles upon this, what appears to be bribery there. But it's just mainly the idea of a guy who's so who just thinks he's simply above the law and he's untouchable, that brought that about. DeMarco's basically me. I mean, in the sense that his attitude toward things, the way he observes things, the fact that he'd rather play golf than work. I mean, so DeMarco's basically me. I mean, he goes and does stuff that I would never do, but so the character, in a way, is easy to write from that perspective. I'm not having to invent a super killer 007 agent of some kind. Like I said, he just sort of thinks the way I do. So that's the easy thing about the character. Cartwright was basically Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's who Cartwright is. And so again, just reading about Epstein and this kind of a character, that's how he came to be. And I bump him off, very quickly in the book, but that was part of it. The other part that is, it's not a spoiler in the book, is the National Archives, comes into play with a note they'd obtained from the presidential, I guess you call them recordings or writings that go to National Archives. And again, that's in the news because of the Trump issues with the documents down in Mar-a-Lago. And so it was that combination of what was going on with National Archives at the time combined with Epstein that was the idea for the book. I heard John Sanford say this. I was on a panel with him one time, and it's the same way for me. It's like a little engineering problem. I mean, you start off with DeMarco is going to go do A. Well, the villain's response can be, A, B, C, or D. And so you pick D and you run that way. Well, then DeMarco's response to what the villain does is another series of, he can do this, this, or this. So it's that sort of thing. You're just sort of, you're trying to solve this problem of what does the antagonist do in response to whatever the protagonist is doing, is the way I've always done it.